Hello everyone, welcome to Election Speakout. I am State Senator Laurie Monnes Anderson and the only nurse in the Oregon State Legislature. I represent Gresham, Troutdale, Wood Village, and Fairview. And today I want to talk about education. Over the last few years we have been in a severe recession, and this has severely impacted how we fund our public safety, our schools, and human services. This funding comes from income taxes. Because so many people have been out of work, there has not been enough revenue to fund our vital services and to support the existing service levels. We have balanced our state budget, which is a good thing, but we cannot continue to cut education and lay off teachers and increase class sizes. So education has to be our first priority. Education is so important for the economy. We have to have a good, well-trained workforce in order to meet the needs of businesses, as well as to meet the needs of businesses who would like to locate here. Our children have to have a good learning environment, and that comes from a well-funded public education system. Only then is our economy going to recover. I have invited Molly Troutman to talk with us. She is a second grade teacher, and I am so excited that she's going to be able to tell you a little bit about what's happening to her in her classroom and in her school. Welcome, Molly. I'm so happy you're able to join us. Can you just tell us about yourself, about how long you've been in teaching, where you got your teaching degree, what grades you've taught?
Thanks for having me, Laurie, and thanks for the work that you do in the Senate and city council members and board members. I appreciate all that work for the communities. Well, I went to Oregon State, graduated, and taught out in Sandy for 9 years, which is now the Oregon Trail School District. During that time, I got a master's degree in education, and for the last 14 or 15 years, I've been teaching for Centennial. I've taught kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, so you can see that my heart is really with the little kids. It's really also with public education. I think that is one of our greatest state and national resources. You can create such a broad, wonderful community in our classrooms, but parents need to feel that their children are safe, that we know them, and that we value them.
I just admire you so much for wanting to teach the little ones, because it's so critical for us to be able to make sure that they get a good start, because if they get a good start, they're going to succeed down the line. As you know, we're coming out of a very deep recession, and the cuts to education have been significant. And I believe that we have to get our priorities straight, and we have to fund education better than we are now. So let's talk about class size. How many students do you have this year? And tell us how class size impacts your teaching.
Well, this year I have 28 second graders. In other years I've had 20, 22, and that's just been a terrific size because you could get to know children, you could get to know their strengths, you could get to know their families. With 28, it's a little trickier. You're teaching kind of to the middle, and you might lose the little ones on the edges of the classroom. Our fifth grades last year had 39 fifth graders, and that really becomes an almost impossible task.
Oh, I would agree. Do you have any aides?
No, we do not have assistants in the classroom. You might see an assistant occasionally, but that's usually there to help a special ed student. For the most part, it's 28 plus me.
Right? So if you have some behavior problems, that makes it tough because you have to spend a lot of time working with those that may have behaviors. So everyone's in the same class, is that correct?
Right, everybody's with me, and
okay.
The classroom teacher is really the center of what's expected.
How has the budget cuts impacted the learning environment over the past years? And what about the resources? Are there things that you did years ago that maybe are now gone? I've heard about PE being cut, and I've heard about music being cut. Just Talk to us a little bit about the changes that you've seen.
Well, yeah, PE and music have been cut. My children probably get to go to PE 3 times a month at 25 minutes at a time, wow, which is not a lot for physical conditioning. They go to music 3 times a month, 25 minutes at a time, which is not a lot for developing a musical talent. And the other person that we have not had as much with is our counselors, because the counselors could work with those little behavior problems or students that are troubled on a one-on-one basis, which would be difficult for me to do in the regular classroom.
Wow. I remember I would so look forward to recess and PE and loved choir. And I'm just really sad that we've had to do this. So let's talk a little bit about the student impacts. I have talked to so many parents and teachers, and they talk about class size and having large classes, and I'm wondering, how can the students learn? What is the impact on the students? Tell me how this impacts students.
Well, we know that students need relationships with positive and supportive adults in order to grow and blossom, besides their parents. And a teacher could be that person if we could know them. But when a teacher has to divide herself that many ways, their relationships don't develop, they're not as strong, so they're kind of compromised. And a student might need one little thing clarified before they can move forward, but when there's that many students, that's tricky.
And there's so many different levels of abilities and skills. How can you hone in on what do you do to know which student skill they need to learn? I mean, do you have to do that assessment? Well, we'll get to testing in just a minute then. Well, let's just start now. I, of course, had my parents were teachers. My dad was a teacher at Gresham High School, and my mother was a teacher at Dexter McCarty, and then my daughter now is a teacher. And just the other day, a teacher in the Gresham Barlow School District was saying she spent all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and then I finally got her on the phone at 8:15. She was just getting home on Monday night when I talked to her. And she said she teaches second grade, and she has so many in her classroom, and she is now trying to figure out what skills each student needs to learn, because she has to get their scores up. So this testing that you have to have on all the students, how has that impact of testing affected you in your teaching and in your classroom?
Well, she's right. We not only have to get the scores up, but we look at the skills individually. You can't just say this child needs a little trouble with reading. You have to figure out where's the trouble occurring. And so there's a lot of data collection and data analysis in order to make that happen. Testing is another pressure. Class size and the home lives that some students come from, where we're trying to help support them, testing becomes one more pressure. They test reading, writing, and math, so we are prescribed and given information about teaching those things in depth, and we lose minutes for some of the creative things, science, or at the middle school, some students are limited in their electives because they have to get caught up in reading science and reading, writing, and math. Oregon is moving towards a growth model, which I think is a good idea, because it doesn't set an arbitrary target. It rather looks just like we would with a child. Look at where you are, and then see what growth we can expect, and maybe work a little, work towards that. So I really appreciate that we're moving towards that growth model. So
where do the students test? Do you have computers in the classroom, or do you have a lab that you take the students to? Where do they go to be tested?
Tricky, because second graders aren't tested on the state tests yet. Third graders, starting in third grade, they do. They go to the computer lab. And you have to remember that's time out of the school day. And so they go to a computer lab, they're tested there. In the second grade, we're testing all the time for the different skills, So we check where we do a pre-test, and we find out where everybody is, and then we do the curriculum, the instruction, and then we do a post-test, and then we find out who still needs what, and then we go from there. But it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of documentation.
And it seems like a lot of time. Oh,
Right.
wow. Well, at the state level, there's talk about forming an early learning council to focus on coordinating healthcare and nutrition and readiness to learn programs. And teachers have told me that testing takes so much time, so I am concerned, or I would like to know about how the students, at what levels are they coming into school? You have so many different levels in the classroom, and so has this changed? Have you seen that change when they get to second grade? Are there still a lot of discrepancies on abilities at second grade?
Well, of course, if you back it up and think about kindergarten, students come into kindergarten with such a wide range of experiences, wide opportunities that people have talked to them and their vocabulary has developed or not. They come in with having used scissors and markers and pencils before, or they haven't. And some students come in and school is in a whole new language to them. So we can gather these little ones up and we can move them forward, but it's much easier to do with 20 little kindergartners than it is with 26 or 27 little kindergartners. Oregon is looking at, and I think slowly moving towards an all-day kindergarten program, and that would be very exciting to have happen.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Molly, for joining me today. You have certainly educated me about your perspectives, and I just so admire what you've been able to do. You have reinforced my priorities. I'm so frustrated that some in Salem want to lay off teachers while at the same time giving tax breaks to big corporations. I want to continue. I want to go back to Salem and continue funding our schools, keep investing in job creation and improving quality care, and continuing to fund public safety. I am State Senator Laurie Monnes Anderson. Thank you for joining us on Election Speakout. You can contact me anytime on my website. Thank you and good night.